Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, July the 7th, 2019, 6:21 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we're not going to have a complete methane report today because the METOP-2 satellite from NOAA is not giving any data for the last 3 days. So, but we can look at methane on cams and see what's going on, and I can show you the data from METOP-1, but for whatever reason the METOP-2 satellite is down, no data, no images available. So there you have it. So we're going to look at methane and carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide and earthquakes, and I thought I would do an Arctic sea ice update in the next couple of days. So be watching for that. So the latest data we have here on cams, this is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services, is from Saturday, yesterday, July the 6th, and I have the Arctic area pulled up and surface level. And I've already got the movie loaded up. Let me see, I need to refresh this to get the right color ledger. Here we go. I may have to load this up again, but this is where it left off on Friday. And so we can see a difference from last week. We can see quite a bit of green here, but we're seeing more blue too, which is a lower color, a lower reading of methane. It's actually lower than we've seen in a while over the Arctic and over some other areas in North America. But we're also seeing higher readings in different areas as well. And I'm thinking the reason we have these lower readings is because of the way that sulfur dioxide mass has spread out over the North Pole and over the whole northern hemisphere. And I'm going to show you that in a minute too, and you'll completely understand what I'm talking about. So let's load this up. So the data is from Saturday, and the forecast runs Sunday through Wednesday. So here's Greenland, here's Canada, here's Alaska, here's Russia, here's Norway and the Norwegian countries here. Here's China over here. We can see a lot. It's still really coming up a lot from China. We're still seeing huge releases from these Norwegian areas, Norway, Sweden, and Finland areas. Also, in different parts of Siberia, we're still seeing these huge releases. Alaska still has quite a bit, although it's not as much as we would expect with the higher temperatures, because we see the blue over here, and this is sulfur dioxide is shielding the rays of the sun, so that it's kind of creating a covering. It's a shielding effect. And so the rays of the sun aren't getting all the way to the surface, and so it's not stimulating the methane to be released as much. It's methane is still there. It hasn't gone away. It's just kind of not releasing as much as it was. We're seeing releases off of Iceland at different times. We're still seeing these waves move across. We're actually seeing some yellow come up Now in the Arctic, we're actually seeing lower levels being released in the Kara Sea, but they come back at the end of the forecast period. So it's a temporary thing. Once this sulfur dioxide, the mass gets dispersed, I'm thinking that that it'll go back. Let's look at the North Pole view, and we can see the whole northern hemisphere from this view. So we're just backed out a little bit more, and now we can see the United States and Mexico, Central America. We can see the northern part of South America here. We can see all of Europe, Russia, Asia. Here's India over here. Here's Northern Africa down here, Saudi Arabia, and so forth. So we still have a lot of methane coming up, and we're seeing the background level is a lighter color of green and into the yellow. That means it's higher methane release. Now let's go to the global view. And we're also seeing release in the Antarctic. It's popping up right down here and down here. You can see it pop up through the dark blue, and it's in this lighter blue and up into the green even, and also along this Larsen ice shelves you'll see it. So let's load this movie up. We're seeing quite a bit of methane around the edges of Australia and also over here in New Zealand. So we're still seeing a lot of green at the surface, which means it's still high releasing of methane. And we're still seeing a lot from the mid part of the United States over to the east, and high releases still in California. Now let's take a peek at 500 HPA, and this is similar, or it's close to the 477 millibar reading from NOAA that we're tracking. So here it is. This is about 18,000 feet up, or about halfway up in the atmosphere. And we have to refresh it again to get the right color ledger for this level. And so we're seeing not as red, so it's not as concentrated as we go up in the atmosphere, but we are seeing the green come further south. So it is like getting more mixed in as it goes further up. We're seeing very high releases still in China and over in Asia and India. Very high releases up here, or over over the Arctic regions as well. Now here's total column, and so it gathers more around the mid areas around the planet total column, and then it's worse every time I see it up here through China and through northern India. It's getting worse for total column. Now let's look at sulfur dioxide real quick. Here it is. There's Saturday. Let's look at it from today. And that mass is still dissipating and kind of spreading out, but it's holding its intensity. This is the global view, and we can see it's spread out all the way across the Arctic. It's spread out across Alaska and all of Canada, pretty much all of Greenland, and the northern regions over here, like Norway and so on, and northern Russia, and then it's got an arm that's come down through China and on down. Let's look at the Pacific view and you'll get an idea. And here's another release. It looks like this is in the Tonga or Fiji area. And so there it is. It's the blob. And then if we look at the North Pole view, you'll be able to see how it's spreading over the North Pole. And it's in exactly the same areas where we were seeing the less methane at surface level. It's exactly the same areas. So it's a mess. It looks awful. I don't like looking at it. It's creepy looking to me. So we'll go back to the globe, and now here's carbon dioxide. So this is total column, and we can see that it's thickest around the mid latitudes, and it's highest coming up over India, and we've got high readings over northern Africa and the United States and Mexico and so on. And this is read in parts per million. So this kind of darkish brown color is 418 here. So here's 417, 416, 415, 414, and 413. And there are no blues anymore when you go to total column. Last year when I was doing these reports, we had blues in the southern hemisphere, or blue-green, and we don't have that anymore because it's gotten higher all the way around. So we're going to leave that as a backdrop. If it will go. We'll just leave it. Now let's come on over. Here is CO2.earth, and you can get daily carbon dioxide readings here. The latest reading is from yesterday, July the 6th, and it's from the Mauna Loa Observatory, and it's at 413.25 parts per million. And this time last year it was at 409.48 parts per million. So it's gone down from the all-time record high on May 15th, where it was 415.70. That was reading from Scripps, and from NOAA it was 415.64. That was the all-time record high. And so it's gone down a tiny bit. If we click here, we can see what it was this week. Here's the chart for this since June the 6th. So it's for the last month. So it's gone down a little bit in the last month. July 2nd was unavailable. July 13th was 413.43. July 3rd. July 4th was 413.44. July 5th was 413.10. And July 6th was 413.25. It's still high, but it's gone down a tiny bit. Here's the NOAA website where we get the methane readings. We'll refresh this to make sure we get the latest. That's taking its time. Anyway, we were able to get the readings from Met-Op 1, but when you go to Met-Op 2, this is what it's showing. Image not available. And it's not just methane, it's for any of the readings. And here's the afternoon one for Met-Op 2, image not available. So here are the readings from the Met-Op 1 satellite from the AM for yesterday, July the 6th. The range was 1433 to 2505 parts per billion, and so the highest is in the chartreuse range, and not chartreuse, I'm having a brain fart, the fuchsia colored. And so we can see that down here over the Antarctic, and that's where we were seeing some pop up. So it is coming up in the Antarctic, and the mean was 1878, and that's up 2 parts per billion from the same reading from last week. And then here is the afternoon reading for Met-Op 1 from yesterday. The range was 1564 to 2362 parts per billion, and the mean was 1880, which is 2 higher than last week. And I have the spreadsheet here, and so we don't have all 4 readings, so it would not be an accurate reading. But if we went with what the data that we have, it's up 2 parts per billion than last week. I didn't even plug the numbers in since I didn't have the data. So there's that. Didn't go down. So now let's move on to earthquakes. Here's USGS for the last 24 hours for all magnitudes worldwide. We're showing 1,452 earthquakes, and the majority of those are still down here in the Ridgecrest and Searles Valley area in California. Now I put together, here are some screenshots that I put together that I wanted to show everyone. This is after the first 24 hours after this all started. It all started on July the 4th in the morning, around, it was 9:06 in the morning was the first ones that came in, and the 6.4 came in about, I can't remember, 10:30 or something that morning. But so in 24 hours, after the first 24 hours, this was the reading. There were 1,098 earthquakes in this area. And here's the pattern. It was in a backwards L coming across. Here's where they were. And there were 1,332 earthquakes worldwide. And then this one is from the next day, same time. So this is from July the 6th. So this is the second 24 hours. So the first 24 hours had fallen off the map, and so this was what came in the next 24 hours. And I took this at 9:09 in the morning, and there were another 1,429 earthquakes right here in this viewing area, and there were 1,684 earthquakes worldwide. So all the first ones had fallen off the map. So these are all new ones for the second 24 hours. And notice the pattern change and how it spread out to the northwest. And this is where that fault line is that Garlock fault line that's coming open now. And then here it is from today. So this is the third 24 hours. So the first 2 days have fallen off the map. So this is from, I took this at 9:10 this morning. 9:10, it's right up here. And here it is, July the 7th. It's the latest, 9:06, and there were 1,307 earthquakes right here and 1,540 worldwide. And so we can see it's spreading out. The movement is starting to spread out to mainly to the northwest, and this is the Coso area, Coso Junction area, and this is all volcanic. And so we're seeing the latest ones, the red dots, are in this almost a straight line pattern across this fault line, and it's ripping open. So basically the earth is ripping open all the way from down here all the way up, and it's heading up to the Coso, northern Coso area. And then we're seeing clusters that are opening up to the east and more to the west as well. So here it is right now. and now we're showing 1,194 earthquakes in the area and 1,450 worldwide. So they're still coming in. They're slowing down a little bit, but they're, as they're falling off, we still have them coming in. And we haven't had any more huge earthquakes here. We've had a lot, though, that were 2.5, but the 2.5 magnitude and higher have gone down. Worldwide, they're 226 rather than 600 and something. So when you zoom in, these are 2.5 magnitude or higher in the last 24 hours. And we'll get that Grapevine one off the map. So it's showing 175. And let's go to 4.5 and higher for the last 7 days. And the orange one, all the yellow ones are the ones that have come off the map. And the orange one is the last 24 hours. 4.5, that came in last night at 10:38. And it's 6:48 p.m. right now, and that 4.5 came in yesterday at 4:50. So the only one that's come in that's of the higher magnitudes, 4.5 and higher, only one in the last 24 hours, and it's this 4.5. So but it still hasn't stopped. And if you've been watching Dutch Sense's updates, he's predicting or forecasting there will be another one somewhere here in Southern California that will be even higher. He's forecasting like 7.6 or maybe 7.6 or higher, even somewhere in Southern California, because we're not seeing it move out enough. The pressure is not being released, and it's built up so high. Oh, and I wanted to show you something else. Here's a posting that I put on my Subscribe Star page. First of all, this is a picture of the 7.1 earthquake, and when that first came in, USGS had it at a minus 0.9 kilometer depth, meaning that would have been up in the mountain. And then they changed it to 8 kilometers deep. And that was an equivalent to 42.1 atomic bombs. So can you imagine 42.1 atomic bombs going off up inside a mountain? Then they changed it. So, but I took a screenshot of it right when it happened and saved it. So, there's that. Also, where these earthquakes are moving up to, This is Ridgecrest right down here. This is Google Earth. Maybe we can get a... Okay, this is Google Maps. This might be a little clearer. This is Ridgecrest. This is Searles Valley. And so the first earthquakes came in like right along here. And now they're spreading up and all around, but they're mainly going up. This was one of the more northern earthquakes. I put it as a marker here. And here's Coso Junction, but they're spreading up into this whole Coso region. And this right here is a huge cinder cone. Look at that. All of this is old volcanoes. And you can see it's all black from the lava. All of these are where volcanoes blew up. That's a huge one. Look at that. That's a dome. And if the magma is moving and the earth is ripping open, and you can see, and all that's all volcanoes, and you can actually see I've got some stuff on Twitter where it's all ripping open. Some of these cracks are pretty big, but it's unzipping. The earth is unzipping, and the fault line is, I don't know what's going to happen. But these are all cones. You can see all of these. See? Here's another one. Here's a lava flow. Look at that. Here's Volcano Peak. Look at that cone. So this was very active back in history. And these could come back to life, especially when you've got some of these earthquakes are actually happening up at a negative depth. If we look back at Google Earth, we get a little bit different perspective. But here's there it is. Here's Volcano Peak here. Look at that. I mean, if this doesn't put the fear of God in people, I don't know what will. There's a face. There's a face in the mountain. But that's all volcanic. And that's exactly where these earthquakes are moving up into. Here's Ridgecrest. Here's Searles Valley. So they're filling up this whole area and going all the way up, all the way up. So I'll show you another way you can find the ones at negative depth. We'll go to Find, and we'll type in a minus point. Okay, none at a minus point, or let's now minus 1. Okay, none. Let's see. Okay, we don't have any at a negative depth today, right here. But we've had some at the negative depths. So I'm leaving this page up, and I just keep coming back to it during the day. So let's look at what's going on. Oh, I wanted to show you this thing on Twitter real quick. Here's the crack. Look at that. This is going all the way across the desert. This is the earth unzipping. Let's play that again. So that was from KTLA. And it was Sky 5 was overhead late this morning, and they got they got a picture of that. Let's see, there's some more pictures. All you have to do is put in a search for Ridgecrest earthquakes, and you can find all kinds of things. Here's another one. That's a big rift. Look at that going all the way across the road. So this is just the beginning of this ripping apart. Here the cars bouncing up and down. Look at that. Things just falling. I mean, I'm amazed that the whole shelves haven't fallen over in the stores. Here's one. Look at this picture. Now that's a huge rift there. Here's water in the swimming pool sloshing out. Look at that aquarium. Look at the poor fish. They don't know what to think. These are rocks that fell down on the highway. And here are the newscasters. They were broadcasting during the earthquake. Here's another picture. This was across Randsburg Wash Road, south of Highway 178, and offset at approximately 1.5 feet. And so what's happening is the ground is moving and shifting. One side is moving up and the other side is kind of moving down, and as it cracks apart. So that's enough of that. I'm going to close some of these out. Sorry about my voice getting hoarse. Okay, so let's do the earthquake report now. For the rest of the world. For the rest of the planet. So it is now 7:03 p.m. Pacific time, and we're showing 1,447 earthquakes worldwide. Of those, 224 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So let's start. I want to start over here. Wait, let's start over here with these two that came in at Jarm, Afghanistan. There was a 4.1 at 2:33 this morning, 193 kilometers deep, and a 4.4 that came in at 3:04 this morning, 192 kilometers deep. So those are pretty deep, and these times I'm telling you are all Pacific time because that's my time zone. Then let's come on over to the Atlantic, and USGS is not showing the the plates, tectonic plate lines. I think they're just on overload. They weren't showing them yesterday for me either, but these are right on the line. Here's a 4.6 near Santa Cruz das Flores, Portugal. That's the reporting station, but it's in the middle of the ocean. This came in at 5:39 this afternoon. It's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, in between North America and Portugal and Spain. And then there was another one a little further south of 4.9 northern mid-Atlantic ridge at 3:52 this morning. So this was on the red line too. Then down here in South America, we've got a 4.6 near Atocha, Bolivia at 9:12 this morning, 239 kilometers deep. That was pretty deep. And a 4.2 near El Aguilar, Argentina at 5:21 this afternoon. Another deep one, 209 kilometers deep. Coming on up, we've had two at Costa Rica. One is in the ocean off the coastline. This is on the red line. The plate line runs, you can see where the demarcation, there's like a ridge here. That's the plate line. So that's where we can see that it's right there. Here's a 4.5, happened near Capos, Costa Rica at 6:17 this morning. And then this 5.2 happened on land near Las Cruz, Costa Rica at 5:09 this afternoon. This one was 65 kilometers deep. This could have caused damage If it was in a populated area, I don't know. I haven't looked for reports. I've been looking at a whole bunch of other stuff this afternoon. And then up here in Mexico, here's a 4.6 on land near Pedro Pochutla, Mexico at 1:50 in the morning. 36 kilometers deep. Now let's come across the Pacific. We've had several down here in the South Pacific. We've had a 4.9 near Lesperance Rock, New Zealand at 11:34 this morning. Here's a 4.8 near Ohonua, Tonga at 12:29 this morning. And the red line would follow this dark line right here. Then there were two over here, 5.1 at 11:49 this morning, 516 kilometers deep, very deep, south of the Fiji Islands, and a 5.3 at 11:49. These were 14 seconds apart, 523 kilometers deep. So these deep ones are, and these are big, 5.1, 5.3, and very deep. These will cause movement of the tectonic plates. Here's a 5.1 near Nifo, Tonga at 9:03 last night. Coming on around. Here's one. It's in the ocean just off this little island of 4.6 near Panguna, Papua New Guinea. This came in at 1:33 this afternoon. 98 kilometers deep. Then here's one on land, 4.8 near Finchhaven or Hoffen, Papua New Guinea at 12:51 this morning. Then we've had some large ones here. These have just come in today, and it looks like we've got a cluster here all in the same area. This one came in as a 6.9. It's a 6.9. It's in the ocean here. It didn't cause any damage as far as I know. Near Kota Ternate, Indonesia. This came in at 8:08 this morning. And since then, all of these aftershocks have come in of 4.9 at 8:29, 4.9, 8:43, 4.8, 10:05, 4.6, 11:17, and 4.6 at 11:35. So I have that earthquake pulled up here. They're labeling it as a 6.8. It first came in as a 7.1 and then it got downgraded. And this is equivalent to 14.9 atomic bombs. Now let's refresh this. And let's see about if there was any damage on these I felt it reports. It looks like weak shaking, was sleeping and then I felt it, moderate shaking, light shaking, moderate shaking. Shaking started at 11:10 p.m. local time and lasted about a minute. Movement was very pronounced, though not particularly sharp. Hanging fixtures swayed and sliding doors to villa patio banged together a couple of times. So it looks like because it was in the ocean buffered it and kept anything from really causing too much damage. And I'm amazed how little damage things. I mean, there's a lot of damage over in California from what's happened, but overall, considering the number of earthquakes we have on a daily basis, and now the size of them getting bigger and bigger, how few deaths and really the damage is minimal considering how many earthquakes we have. It's because of the location. A lot of them are in the ocean. Here's a 5.1 near Union, Philippines in the ocean. This came in at 5:59 this afternoon. Next, here's a 4.5 near Onatahan, Northern Mariana Islands at 6:35 this morning, 109 kilometers deep. Now the red line would follow this dark blue line. This is the ridge where the plates come together. Here's a 4.5 near Hachichojima, Japan at 3 o'clock this afternoon. Here's a 4.7 in the Kuril Islands of Russia at 6:05 this morning. I think that's all of the international earthquakes. So let's go to 2.5 magnitude or higher. I mean all magnitudes, sorry. And take a peek at Hawaii first. We've got 7 here today. We've got a 1.7 at Kilauea, 2.2 Pahala, 2.4. This is Hawaiian Ocean view. 1.9 Pahala, 1.9 Kilauea. It's off to the side. It's in between Kilauea and Mauna Loa. Here's a 2.5 out in the ocean to the west of the island, and a 1.9 up here at Honaunau-Pupu. That last one came in at 3:57 this afternoon. So the highest one was at 2.5. So that's showing activity. Next, coming down to the Caribbean, we're showing 13 here today. I'll call these off. 1.3, 1.5, 2.6, 2.6, 2.3, 1.4, 3.2, 2.0, 1.9, 1.5, 2.7, and 1.3, and 2.6. So the highest one was that 3, what was it? 3.2, and that was in the ocean. So none of these would have done any damage, but showing activity still. Now coming on up to Alaska, the Aleutian Islands are quiet here. We're showing 94 here today, and that's an average number for Alaska. They usually average 50 to 100 a day. Now of those 94, 7 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So we're going to start here down here in the Gulf of Alaska at 3.1 Kodiak, 4.3 Kodiak, that's getting up there, 3.9 Kodiak, and 3.5 Kodiak. So those are all clustered right there. 2.6 seaward. Here's a 3.3 at Kobuk and a 2.6 at Koktovik. So let's zoom in now with all magnitudes, and just looking at the patterns we can see that it's spreading out, and here we're coming up. Here's the Cook Inlet. How many do we have here? We've got 3 right here at King Salmon. These are not huge. These are in the 1s range. Here's a 1.0 Larsen Bay, and so on. And so here we are coming up in the Cook Inlet. Here's a 2.1 Redoubt Volcano, 1.8 Redoubt Volcano, and so on. Here's a 2.0 Sterling. Here's Anchorage, just a few in the Anchorage area. Here's a 2.4 Redoubt. So, you know, a lot of 2s. Ones and 2s is what we're seeing. Moving up through the middle part of the state, and then here's some on the eastern side. 2.1 Circle, 0.7 Fort Yukon, and here at Kobuk today we have 10 here today, and we did see a 3.3 here. That was the largest one. Then we had a 2.2 and a 2.1, and the rest are in the 1s range and under. Now up here at Koktovik we have 13 total here today. So most are in the 1s range. We already saw the ones higher than 2.5. We've got a few in the little armpit here. We've got a 2.0 Icequake at Yakutat, 1.5 Cape Yakutaga, 1.7 Haines Junction. So that's kind of average, except these are getting higher down here in the Gulf. Now coming down into the lower 48, we're showing 1,302 here today. Now 1,191 are at that area in Southern California. So 1191, 1302. Let's see. 1302 minus 1191. So we've got 111 besides those to look at. So we can do that. We can do that. So we're going to start over here in Tennessee. Here's a 1.9 near Louisville. It came in at 11:53 last night. 9:53 last night. Then we've got 3 in Oklahoma, a 2.1 at Perry, 1.6 Helena, and a 2.0 Helena. New Mexico is clear, Arizona is clear, Utah is clear. Now it is the weekend, so the earthquake makers are at home, so we probably won't see any blasting or explosions, but you never know. Here's a 1.1 Whitehall, Montana, 1.1 Virginia City, and a 3.1 at Plains, Montana. That's for Yellowstone, so the largest one is that 3.1. Coming up into the Pacific Northwest, and I spoke too soon. Here's a 2.2 magnitude explosion near Princeton, Canada at 10:12 this morning. So I'm going to pause the recording while I get my tremor map pulled up. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So remember yesterday where we didn't see any tremors? Yesterday they said no tremors. Remember, no tremor in this time range, which was July the 5th, which I found highly unusual, highly suspect. So here it is. So that was on July 5th, for July 5th, because these are a day back. So here it is for July 6th, yesterday, and now we see 170 epicenters. So look at these and where they're spread out. And we're actually seeing right down here, look at here, we have tremors right near Lake Oroville. Here is Lake Oroville right here, so they're showing up to the southeast of Lake Oroville, right next to, I don't know what this, Clipper Mills. I don't know what this lake is. That's not looking good. That is not good to see tremors next to Lake Oroville. That I've not seen tremors here before since I've been looking at this. So we've also got tremors up on the northern California border. Also up here north of Medford, between Medford and Eugene, Oregon, there's a whole cluster. Then coming up, we're seeing some up here in the Olympia area, and then on the southern part of Vancouver Island. So that's our tremors for yesterday. So let's see. So we saw tremors up here on Vancouver Island, and then we saw some here at Olympia, and here's an earthquake, a 1.7 near DuPont at 8:11 this morning. Here's a 0.8 at Morton, and we've got, it looks like 3 at Amboy, which is Mount St. Helens. This is right in the middle of the crater. These are on the side. 0.3, 0.1, and a minus 0.2. And here's a 0.9 at La Pine. And so those other tremors were up here, and then down here at the northern part of California, and then down here south of Lake Oroville. Here's Oroville, so they were right down here between Oroville and this little lake. Let's see, New Bullards reservoir. Oh, that's a reservoir. They have a dam there too. So that's not good. Now, coming into Northern California, the red lines, if you remember from my other shows, the San Andreas fault line comes right up here and up along here and up. The Cascadia subduction zone is right along here. The Juan de Fuca plate is right here. It's an unusual shape. And then the subduction zone continues up there, and the red line continues all the way up and around where you see the elevation in the underwater mountains there. That's where the red line would be. So this is a fulcrum point right here. This is at the bottom of where the Juan de Fuca plate meets the San Andreas fault line and the Cascadia subduction zone, and we have two right here. The first one was a 2.4 near Petrolia at 11:15 last night. I'm sorry, 9:15 last night, and then a 3.3 just to the west of that at 10:26 last night. And whenever you see that, that's a lot of pressure that builds up there. Then we have one in Northern California. What is this? Horror Pond, Horror Pond. It's to the left of that Fall River Valley. Here's Shasta Lake, is northeast of Shasta Lake. So this was a 2.8 Fall River Mills. So that's getting on up there. It's in the mountains. Oh look, we just had one come in at Truckee, California, 1.5. Now let's look at the geysers while we're here. We've got 24 on the map. That's an average number for a weekend, and I don't mind seeing a low number there anytime I see it. And all of those are under 2.5 magnitude. So 24 at the geysers, and these are ones and under. There's 1.5, 1.6, those are the highest readings. Then down here, look, here's one right in the water, 1.3 near Port Costa. Then we've got some at Lake Tahoe. We've got 3. We've got a 0.3 in the lake that came in at 9:17 last night, a 1.6 at 9:25 last night, and a 0.3 at 10:05 last night. So it looks like that was just on the coast of the lake. Then here's a 0.9 near Gardnerville. Okay, northern Nevada is clear. And then coming on down, we've got a cluster at Gabbs. And in this view, we've got 6 earthquakes. So we've got a couple that are not Gabbs. So 4 at Gabbs, Nevada. We've got a 1.4 and a 1.9, a 0.9, and a 1.6. Those are all at Gabbs. and then a 0.2 at Hawthorne. And where's this one? They're calling this one at Gabbs too, a 1.6. So that's the reporting station. So here's Gabbs Valley Range. Gabbs Valley Range study area. And so they report all around there. So the earthquake can be in this whole region and still Gabbs. Kind of strange. Anyway, it's the way it is. And we only have a few in southern Nevada. What have we got? Beatty, Pahrump. 1.8 is the highest at Pahrump. Here's one, a 0.9 at Pioche. And so on. Now we're getting down into our cluster. Now we don't have, what have we got? At Mammoth Lakes we've got a 2.9 and a 1.3. The 2.9 is getting up there. Normally we see more at Mammoth Lakes. Here's a 1.5 at Big Pine. And we'll look at the big cluster again before we end. But I want to... Okay, we saw that, the Port Costa. But I want to do these others first. San Juan Bautista had a 2.1 and a 0.9. Pinnacles had a 2.5 and a 1.4. Now the San Andreas fault line runs right down here. It's an imaginary red line that we're thinking about. Here at Grapevine was a 2.8 and a 2.2, so those are a little higher. We did have a cluster there about a week ago. Here's a 1.1 to Tehachapi. Now see how it's spreading out? It's just like the movement is all spreading out. Instead of staying exactly on a straight line there, it's moving out. Now let's come on down into the Southern California and LA area. Oh, let's see this one. That's a 2.1 at Barstow. You're not going to believe this. Here's a quarry blast, a 1.7 quarry blast at Boron. I can't believe it. Here's a 2.1 Johannesburg, 2.2 Castaic, 2.5 San Bernardino. So we're seeing some larger ones down here in the southern California area. So in this LA region in Southern California, we're seeing 39 here today. That's kind of an average number. Let's see. 2.5 Indio, 2.5 San Bernardino, 2.7 Fontana. That's a little higher than we normally see. So this isn't a huge number, but we're seeing they're stacked up here. They're clustering. Like at Indio, we've got 8. Here's a cluster there. Let's look at here's a cluster here. Here's Fontana and Glen Avon. So in this Glen Avon area, there are 11 here today. We're not seeing any by the La Brea tar pits. So here's a little one of 0.7. Crescenta Montrose. We've got 2 up here. 1.7 and a 0.3 at Pear Blossom. So 2.2, we already saw that. So, you know, this movement can spread out anywhere. Let's zoom out a little bit. And now, when we look at it, ooh, you saw that? A whole bunch just came in, like all at once. Yeah, like these, there were about 4 or 5 that all popped in together. So we can see these latest ones are Coso Junction, Little Lake. Now here's Cyril's Valley. Here's a 2.5 Cyril's Valley. So that's still moving, but we can definitely see it moving up. Little Lake, a whole bunch at Little Lake. Here's Trona, that's to the south. Here's Coso Junction, Little Lake. Here's a Ridgecrest, 2.3. But we're having a lot of under one, lower 2s and in the 1s range now is what I'm seeing. So it looks like the magnitude is going down. It's for a lot of them. Here's a 3.8 at Coso Junction. But we're seeing a lot of in the 1s range, which we weren't seeing before. They were higher. So the magnitude is going down, but it's still shaking unbelievably. And we're seeing the red line still go up, but it's gradually spreading out. So I don't know what's happening here, except I know that we can see the ground opening up. We can also see it happening in old volcanic regions, huge volcanic fields that could be coming back to life. Are we going to see magma coming up? I don't know. I mean, why not? Why couldn't we? I mean, it's not that far away from the La Brea tar pits, right down here, where it's coming up, you know, in the sewers and everything, blowing manhole covers off. The pressure's so high, the methane is blowing the manhole covers off. They're still coming in. Oh, looks like we had a new one up here. Just came in a 1.1 near Fernley, Nevada. Came in at 7:06 p.m. So we could see a lot more happen tonight. I mean, the night is still young. The day is still. The night is still young. Yes, it is. So it's 7:42 and I'm getting ready to wrap up this show. It was kind of long, but that happens. I mean, we went into great detail on some of this stuff. We're showing 220 earthquakes that are 2.5 magnitude or higher now. And all magnitudes 1434. I can't remember what it was at the beginning of the show. I think it was 1450 or something. That means that they're coming in a little bit slower than they were coming in 24 hours ago. So I recommend everyone get your spiritual house in order. No one knows the day or the hour. I do believe the end is near. We are living in the end times, and all of this has been predicted in the Bible. Oh, did you see that? This just came in. Another 5.1 at Kota Ternate. This came in at 7:24. So now we're showing 7 here. So, as I always like to end my shows, I recommend everyone get your spiritual house in order while you still can, because you don't want to be caught unawares. And the last thing you're going to be thinking about in a disaster is whether or not you've gotten right with God and Jesus. That's the last thing you're going to be thinking about. So until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night.